Hello there and welcome. My name is Jimmy Wikman, and in this video we're going to take a look at how we can create multiple asset fields, custom fields for assets that will form a cascading sequence. So in this example we're going to choose, for example, how you can select first the country, and from the country then you will get a curated list with cities in that country, and from selecting a city you will get a curated list of offices. And you can use this for basically anything, so it will simply fetch the information based on the previous value that you select, and you can have this one nested as many times as you want. But as you will see when we create this, it might not be as useful always if you don't have, because you cannot reuse these ones except for this cascading situation. But let's jump into and creating one of these setups so you can see also how it works in real life. So let's jump over to my test instance and I will show you how to build this. So here we are now in the test instance, and the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we have data in assets. So let's jump over to assets and see the setup that I have created for this example. So I have now a schema called geography just for the purpose of this tutorial. And in here I have now created a continent. I only have two, and I have a few countries here. So obviously we will have our Nordic countries, and then we have added Egypt here just to make sure that we have something to look at. And then we have created some cities related to this one. And finally we have some offices, and they are now connected through a custom field here, or to an attribute, to one of the countries, or in this case it is one of the cities. So the way it's been built, if we go from the back or from the end here, so the office is connected to the upper level, the city, with an attribute, and the city itself will have a similar attribute that will go up to country, and the country will have one that goes up to continent. Now we will only use these three, but you could add all four if you want. And the reason why we need to have this connection upwards is that we will use this field, and we will say based on this field, city field, you need to look upwards. So if I have selected Stockholm in the previous selection, in the previous field, then fetch this one. So this might seem a little bit weird, but I'm going to explain it when we create the custom fields for this one. So let's begin now then by going over and creating some custom fields for it. So the first one we will have is, we will create one called country, only country. And this one will be a normal asset object. This one will be just like any other asset field that we have created. We'll just fetch everything from country. That's all that we will do. We will call this country. And I will not add it here to any screens. I will do that later on, so we can see how it looks when we connect it through the screen section of the project instead. So I will actually just cancel this one. And now I need to find then the country. And if you have seen my previous videos about this one, then you know what I like to do. Go into configuration and make sure you do not have this as a global one, because it will cause issues in your instance. So for this one, we will only want to have that in the JSM demo for this one, and we can have all the issue types. That doesn't really matter. But now we have confined it then, so this data will only be available in this project, the JSM demo project. And then you see that this is the data now that we have in the custom field. So what we need to do next then is we need to populate this one with data. And we do this as we have done in the previous video. So we select an object schema. In this case, we want to fetch from the geography, and we want to have object type equals, and we want to have country. And that's it. That's the only thing that we need to do. Just gonna make sure just going to open assets here in another tab and make sure that it was actually called country. It was called country. And then I will have what I want to use to display this one. And I will only have the name for this one. And this one will be empty. So I will not actually put anything in there. There we go. Now we have created a custom field called country. So if I go to our project here now and we'll just add this one, and we'll do this the backwards way. We'll go to project settings and we'll go to screens. Screens. There we go. And I want to have this for, let's see, we want to have this one for incident in this case. And this time I'm going to remember, I did another video just recently and I forgot that there are 2 screens here. So we'll do it for 2. This one is already divided into a default and asset tab. So here I will now add the country. There we go. And we will go back and I will do the same for the other one. So this is the view and edit screen. We have an asset there as well, and we will use country. There we go. So now if we go back to the project and we create one, let's call this one Cascade Test. Let's just create one called that one, and then we can add it into the ticket once it's been created. In here now we have a regular one, and we have some asset objects that we have already created before. So now we have country here, so if I add an object here, it will now select the list that we have for country in assets. I can just pick Sweden here, and then it will look, yeah, we have Sweden. Doesn't do much at the moment. It's still a very useful field to have. Country is being used in many support products. But what we want to have now is we want to have the sequence here. So we need to create the next custom field for this one. So I'm going to take this tab actually. I'm going to go to issues. I'm going to go to custom field. And the next part of this one will then be city. So we'll create a new custom field of asset object, and we'll call this city. There we go. And we will skip this one again. And now we will find it and we will configure it. So it's the same thing that we did last time, but we will do a little bit different when it comes to the filtering of it. So we will still apply this only to the GSM demo project. And then we will edit the schema for it. So we will start the same way that we did before. So we still want to have geography. We still want to have object type equals country. We still want to have the name here. And for now, if I just leave this one, and sorry, this one should of course be city. And if we leave this one, it will behave exactly like the field we just created. It will just fetch all the items in the city schema, and that's not what we want. So what we want now, we only want to have the cities related to the country that we previously have selected. So the first thing we need to do is we need to do a filter for this one. So we will start the same way. So I can just copy this one basically here. But then we need to add a query here. So we want to have this one that will only fetch based on the previous field. So the way we do this is we start with AND. And then we need to have a variable for it. And if you watch my video, the last video I made about assets, where we went through how to connect a reporter or select items based on a reporter's name, you're going to find that this one is very similar. So the first thing we need to do is we want to have the attribute label, the name of the attribute in assets that we want to look for. So the way this one works is if we go to assets then. So if I go back here and I select assets, and we now go to geography and here. So we are now in the city one. So the one we want to look for is called country. So we want to look in this label, and we want to say if this label have a value here in the previous field that matches this one, then let's show this one. So the way we do that is we want to say then city, that was the name, that was the label of, no, sorry, country is the one. Let me put this one in for country. So country is the attribute label we're looking for. And the reason I put it within quotation marks here is if you have a label that have multiple words in it. So country of origin, for example, that would have spaces in it. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that this one is then saved as a string. And we do that by adding these ones. So it's kind of like a safety net in case you want to use labels that have multiple words. And we want to match this, but now comes the tricky part, because we want now to relate this one. We want to say that only show the ones that are related to our previous custom field that was called country. So if the country that we have selected in that field matches the label of the attributes that we have in cities, then show those. And the way we do that is we have something that looks like this. So if you watched my previous video when we did a custom field that only showed items in the asset based on the reporter name, this one is quite similar. So instead of having the reporter name here, we will actually have the custom field, the ID of the custom field that we want to look at. So we will look at this custom field, and then we will take if the label that we have in that field matches that what we have in the label here in country, then we will show them. So the first thing we need to do is replace the ID of this one. And the way we do that is we go down to open this in a new tab. And we're going to find country. And we have it. And then we can go into, it doesn't really matter which one we pick. But what you will see then when you look at the URL for this one, you can see at the end here it will have an ID. So we simply need to copy this one. And we replace it in this one. There we go. And now you will see that the check mark here will become green also because this is an ID that exists. So the way we do it now then is we have an object type of city. We fetch that from the asset. And we say if the label of the attribute country, label here, matches what we have in this custom field, which is our country field that we created before, then connect those and show only those values. So now we can save this one. There we go. And now we have one called city. So if we now go back to our project, and we can just go back to, here is where I want to go. And now we want to have the cascade test here. And nothing will happen here because I forgot I need to add it to the screens first. We will do the same thing. We will go to screens. And since this one has already been created, I will be a little bit lazy and only add it to one of them. And that will only be the view edit. And in here, I will now have city. There we go. Let's go back. And now then we will see that we will have a city here. And if we look into our assets here, so if I go back and pick assets here, and in geography, you will see that in country here, we will have 5 choices, and in city we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we have selected Sweden in the previous selection here. So if we have done this correctly, it will only show the cities connected to Sweden. So if we click on Add Object here, and there you have it. We will have 3 search results, and these are the 3 that are connected then to our Swedish selection. So if I go back here instead, if I close this one, and if we remove this one, and I will now select Egypt, then you will see then, as soon as I select this one, if I click on city here, you will now have the result for Egypt. So depending on what I select here, this one will actually show the result connected to it. And now, just for clarification, or just for going this the full way through, we will show you the third level also. So we will create one called Office. So let's go back to Custom Fields and create a new one. Okay, let's refresh and see if it... There we go. It just stopped for a moment. Another asset object, so we will create this one exactly like we did for city, but we will change the ID and we'll change the name for it. So this one will then be offices. And we will, just to make, I'm lazy, so I will just add it to all screens so I don't have to go through the screen part again. And I will just update it. And now we will find then off. And we want to have context and default values. And as always, we should always lock it down. Make sure that it's only for the applicable product. And then we will do the configuration again. So we will do this one the same way as we did last time, geography. We will have object type equals, and I believe it's office. Let's double check. Yes, it is office. And then we need to do object type. Can actually copy this one completely, and we will replace city with office. We should have a capital O. It is actually case sensitive, just for your understanding that I have missed this a couple of times and I didn't realize that it was case sensitive, but it is. So office with the capital O is what we have. And this one will then say that we have now the label of the attributes in here. If we go down to the office, we will say this one is called city. So it labels up, or sorry, it connects up with the attribute city. So then we will have city here. And then the last thing that we need then is to make sure that we have the correct label, and we want to have now the city. Sorry for jumping around between all these screens. So we want now to have the city custom field that we created. And we just need to have context. And then I can fetch this at the end here. And in this case, it was so easy that we just needed to do that. I will select name so they can choose from the name. And sorry. There we go. And I don't need anything in the other values. I don't want to have multiple, and I don't want to have a default value. So there we go. And now then if we go back here, let's see, where did I add it? I think I added it in the wrong way actually, because now this one will probably be in general here somewhere. So let's fix that by going to screens. And then we go to incident. I want to have the view and edit screen. And if we look at this one, it should be at the end here, and it is, and I spelled it wrong for some reason. Let's remove it from there and move it to asset, and we can have offices. There we go. And now it will work the way we want it to. If I go to the cascade test here, now we will have a triple cascade then. Under assets, and I think I only did this for Sweden here. So let's select Sweden. There we go. Now I will have a number of cities based on Sweden, and I will take, let's double check which one. It doesn't really matter. We take Stockholm here, for example. Do we have any offices? Yes, we have 2 offices. So then I will see now the offices, and in Swedish, the word for office is kontor. So that's why it looks like this. So it's Swedish. And I now have 2 offices I can select. And if I select something else above, oh, sorry. Let's see, do we have anything for Malmö, for example? Then maybe this one is blank. Yeah, there are no options here because we haven't added any city or any offices for Malmö. And if I instead then go up and I change even the country here, so if I replace this one and I have Egypt, and I think I have created some office for Egypt. And then I will have, let's see, Giza, for example. And let's see, do we have any office for Giza? No. Let's see, did we have it for Cairo? No options. So there you see, we can actually, it depends all on the data. So we have seen that it works now for Sweden. And as you might have noticed there, when I updated the top one, the bottom one actually did not change. And that is because they are already set, so they will actually stay that way until you have made a new selection. So if you change the top one, what you want to happen then is that you will have an automation that will clear the ones below to make sure that you get the correct values here. So this one is not built into the asset themselves, unfortunately. So you need to have an automation for that. But the automation is very simple. So you basically say if you change the country, then you will set the values for city and offices to blank. And if you change city, then you will change offices to blank and so on. But this one will now, let me just double check, allow you now then to set a sequence with asset objects. This one can be used for all kinds of things where it actually makes sense. You can have, for example, depending on what kind of product you select, you can have different sub options then below that one. Or if you have, for example, like we have, depending on your organization. So if you set on a part of the organization, then you will get a selection of the departments below that one. So there you have it. This is how we actually create these things. And the way we do it is very similar to how we did it in the previous video with matching against a reporter. And instead of using the reporter here, so replacing this one with reporter, I don't know why that keeps happening, but so this is where you would have it if you would want it to be matching against the reporter name. But what we do here instead, we are matching it towards the custom field, a previous custom field. So this one can be any custom field actually, so it does not have to be an asset field, but it needs to have the same values. So if you would have an organization field that is a select list, for example, and then the value in the select list has to match the attribute label that you have in assets. But good. That was it. That is how we create cascading asset fields that will allow you to set values based on the previous selection of another custom field. So I hope you liked this video, and I hope that you find them useful. And if you have anything that you would like me to show in particular, then please add a comment below and I will try to make a video for it, if it is possible to do, of course. And I will upload it as soon as I can. But for now, I think the only thing that remains for me to say today is that I hope that you have an awesome day and a great week.